Imagine a college junior staring blankly at a textbook at 3 a.m., exhausted but terrified of failing. Now, picture a 22-year-old founder blaming the market for their lack of traction. Finally, look at a global superpower trying to lock down its advanced technology to keep it out of the hands of rivals. These scenarios are linked by a specific pattern of behavior called the consumption trap. It is the belief that success is a direct result of the volume of inputs, that if you just hoard enough hours, enough capital, or enough raw resources, you will eventually win through sheer mass. This defensive hoarding is often rooted in fear. A decade ago, doomers predicted that computer vision would make radiologists obsolete. The fear was so intense, it actually discouraged people from entering the field. Today, we face a shortage of radiologists because we tried to protect the profession by running away from the technology. Doubling down on a high-input, defensive strategy doesn't create an advantage. It often has the opposite effect. When you throw endless hours at passive reading or endless money at a product that doesn't work, you're leaning into a strategy that has zero leverage. Thriving in a competitive environment requires a shift from defensive hoarding to active execution. The mechanics of leverage look surprisingly similar whether you're trying to improve your own memory or the productivity of a multi-billion-dollar economy. Take the simplest level of execution, individual learning. We see a clear gap between the student who grinds for 4 hours and the student who studies for 33 minutes but scores in the top 5% of their class. The difference is defined by a simple relationship. Real learning equals the amount of information consumed multiplied by the retention rate. Passive habits like rereading or highlighting drop that retention rate to about 10%. You might pour 5 hours of effort into the system, but if the bucket is full of holes, 90% of that work is lost before it can be used. Active methods like practice testing and explaining concepts out loud can push retention to 70%. By focusing on how you retain the info rather than how much you consume, you're plugging the holes in the bucket. Exceptional outcomes aren't a byproduct of more hours. They come from identifying where your strategy is leaking and making the effort more efficient. This shift from brute force to active refinement defines successful businesses as they scale. Reaching a $100 million valuation isn't a result of luck. It's a result of finding and fixing internal constraints over a long period. Young founders often blame their age for a lack of traction, but since modern tools have made the cost of starting a company almost zero, the barrier isn't age. It's usually the product itself. If the market isn't responding, the problem is likely a lack of competence, not a lack of opportunity. Dominance in any single game usually requires this kind of long-term iteration. Jimmy Donaldson started making videos at 12. By the time he was 25, he had 13 years of active daily testing and refinement behind him. Scaling requires a roadmap that changes as you grow. The systems that work for a 10-person team fail when you reach 50. You have to identify the specific constraint of that stage, whether it's software, sales, or logistics, and solve it to move to the next level. You don't build a massive business by stubbornly repeating an old strategy. You build it by hunting down weaknesses and spending years iterating on them. The same logic applies to the global AI race. NVIDIA's Jensen Huang has argued that the current protectionist approach toward AI compute may actually be counterproductive for long-term dominance. The US government currently treats advanced AI processors like enriched uranium, attempting to defensively hoard the technology while restricting access for rivals. However, cutting off a rival like China, which already controls a massive portion of global chip manufacturing and a huge share of AI researchers, doesn't eliminate competition. It simply forces them to accelerate their own internal architectures and independent supply chains. The real value of AI isn't just the physical chips, it's a 5-layer stack. While the silicon at the bottom is important, its power comes from the architecture, software, and models built on top of it by a global ecosystem of developers. If you bifurcate the market with bans, you force half the world's researchers to build on a foreign tech stack. Instead of securing dominance, you lose the leverage that comes from having everyone develop on your own standards. National security in the AI era isn't achieved by building walls around hardware. It's achieved by building a superior, open ecosystem that the rest of the world finds impossible to leave. Whether it's passively highlighting a textbook, blaming market conditions for startup failure, or trying to hoard silicon, the common thread is a defensive posture driven by fear. If we let fear dictate our policy or our career choices, we create the very problems we're trying to avoid. Scaring people away from software engineering or radiology today guarantees a shortage of critical talent tomorrow. Across all these scales, the common thread is the shift from a defensive posture to an active one. Exceptional results come to those who test their weaknesses, commit to long-term refinement, and choose to compete in open environments. Success is a choice to stop hoarding and engage with the constraints in front of you. Apply this logic to your current project today. If you found this valuable, subscribe to Scientifier and visit our website to keep leveling up.